So yeah, now it's clean up on aisle 45 time. And for a long while yet, it is going to be clean up on aisle 45.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Cleanup on Aisle 45 bonus episode. Totally unscripted, very raw. See, I even did that out of order. That's how unscripted this episode is. It's for week 204, week ending December 21st, right? Going into holiday, Christmas week. And I am really excited to talk to you today, Harry, because you did something very cool today. First of all, how are you?
I'm well. Yeah, I'm excited too. Yeah, we just skip the pleasantries, right? You know? Yeah, no, I'm good. Family's good. Dog's good. Now let's get into the good stuff, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's so much that we're going to cover on the public episode next week. First of all, Rudy Giuliani's being hauled back into court because he still was being a jerk about handing over his shit. And so he could be held in contempt on January 3rd. That's exciting.
That is exciting.
We get the Matt Gaetz report coming out this week. And then, you know, I'm going to read that shit out loud in the Daily Beans feed so everybody can hear it.
You
provided
do such a
it's
good
not
job at that.
2,000 pages or something. And then I'll be like, okay, we're on episode 410 of the Matt Gaetz report. The year is 2046. And, you know, but aside from that, I think we should be able to get it all in. We're going to be talking on the public episode about Fani Willis being disqualified by the fucking Georgia appeals court. And the weird thing is the last thing we heard, they had oral arguments scheduled for December, and then they just pulled that off the calendar with no explanation.
Yeah,
and I was waiting for a reschedule. And they just come out with a decision disqualifying her. Fani Willis has said she's going to appeal. We'll talk about that because the dissent is fire. And then,
the dissent is super fire. Yeah, we'll talk about that all next week. But yeah, that was that's a lot to discuss there.
But today, you went and met with some folks. Tell us about it.
I did. So, you know, I try to be very solutions oriented. A lot of our listeners, I love them to death. I love sending off angry tweets, angry blue sky post, thread, whatever, angry comments. But I like to be a little more solutions oriented. So, you know, obviously with the nominations that have been going on by Trump, he's just throwing out the most absurd, unqualified people. So, you know, I wanted to do something about it. I have a platform. I have access to senators, congresspeople at the Capitol. So I reached out last week to schedule some meetings. I reached out with Susan Collins. That's possibly could still happen. I was trying to do it jointly, but I did maybe today with Lisa Murkowski. And funny story. So when I walk in, like it wasn't a secret. Like I talked about meeting with senators, but I didn't get like a lot of press asking me questions. So when I walk in, she has her wing is right towards the end of the office, the Hart office building. So it's on the 5th floor. Walk down and I see like a press stakeout. And it's probably about 12, 13 journalists there, cameras. And then I see a Capitol police officer in uniform. And then I see like guys in suits. And I said, what the hell? This ain't for me. This is just a regular meeting. Like, what is happening here? So I saw one of the guys, actually a former U.S. Capitol police officer. He retired years ago, and he works, you know, moonlight in private security. And I said, "What's up? What are you doing here?" And he said he is part of Robert Kennedy's team. So inside was Robert Kennedy meeting with Lisa Murkowski right before me, and I said, "What? WTF, what the fuck?" Like, what the fuck? So, you know.
You talk about RFK Jr., Robert Kennedy?
RFK Jr.
Anti-vax. Anti-fluoride, brainworm. Bear bicycle in the park.
Bicycle in the park.
That guy.
What else we need? Like, yes, that guy. He's in there meeting with Lisa Murkowski. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to stand out here. And then finally, one of her staff is fantastic. Took me in, and I waited in the back office just until the meeting. I did see him walk out. I was just avoided him. You know, didn't have anything to say, but tried to give an angry look if possible. But no,
mad dog RFK Jr.
Mad dog, right? I know. But going to the meeting, I had a great relationship with Senator Murkowski when I was an officer on the Hill. She was often, she was very friendly. She would go out for walks on the Capitol on nice days and just say hello. And we talked about Alaska a lot, the culture up there. She shared with me like farmers markets it was just we had a good relationship. And this was when I was at the Capitol. So seeing her, I hadn't seen her in person since I had left almost a year ago. Gave me a big hug, and we just, talked about everything that's going on. And today she asked about my race. She was very proud of me and everything that I have been doing.
Oh, your congressional race? My
congressional race, yeah, when I ran. We talked about that for a bit, but then I just got into it. And, I told her, one of the things I did tell her, I said, listen, a lot of times with these meetings, you get people that just want to oppose everything, which I do, but I wanted to be productive and, very talk specific to the heart issue of the nomination of Kash Patel and how it relates to my January 6th experience, her January 6th experience, because she was one of the people who voted to hold Trump accountable in the Senate following the impeachment trial, and we talked about that. And that actually is one of the reasons why I decided I wanted to meet with her because she is willing to have those conversations. She does know that January 6th wasn't a tourist visit. She knows that. She's acknowledged that. So it was definitely great. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to her. I won't go into too much about what, she said specifically, but she did share, she shares concerns. But she also said that she will listen to anybody. She'll listen to the people that want to sit down and talk. And one of the things that I told her, it's not just about a rubber stamp that Trump can have whoever he wants. Like, the Constitution wasn't written. If that's the case, the Constitution wouldn't need confirmed by the Senate. So the responsibility of picking an AG, a judge, any cabinet, those people are just as much a responsibility of being appointed by the Senate as it is the president. Advise and consent.
It's supposed to be a co-equal power.
Yes, it's supposed to be. And it's not just, hey, give the president who he wants. And that's any administration. That's Democrat, Republican. They're checks and balances. And I just saying that the Senate is one of the last guardrails to make sure that these institutions that are hanging on by a thread, that they still remain. The senators have a job. And if they nominate or confirm a nomination, and that the nomination is a failure or does something, they hold just as much responsibility for that nomination as the president does for nominating that candidate. And, I joked with her. I said, I don't need to give you a civics lesson, but a lot of people in this world do need civic lessons because they don't understand that. They just think the Senate the president, if it's a Republican Senate, we got it. No, that's not how it works. And it doesn't matter R or D or I, independent. One of the most important things that I did share about the specific nomination, the Kash Patel one, the FBI is supposed to be one of the most nonpartisan lead investigative law enforcement entities in the world. The most nonpartisan, right? Kash Patel is the opposite of nonpartisan. Not just is he only partisan, he's extremely
hyper-partisan.
He's hyper-partisan. Like, this isn't Fox and Friends partisan or this is like Newsmax or whatever, like extremely partisan.
This is Epic Times.
Yes. In fact, I actually saw an article. Maybe we can look into that. I saw an article where the MSNBC or somewhere was talking about Kash Patel, and the Epic Times was referenced in there. So I would love to read that article.
That's funny.
It is, right? But that's what you got to realize. How can you nominate somebody that wants to, or not even nominate, confirm, because Trump would do whatever he wants. So we're past that, trying to understand Trump's logic. Confirm somebody who said he wants to gut, defund, get rid of the FBI. Now he wants to head it. Like,
and go after political enemies.
That is the definition. Like, how would you feel comfortable confirming an individual? This isn't about my disdain for him. This is just about the confirmation process and the FBI as a standalone, nonpartisan political entity. And it's just unfortunate. People talked about the FBI, how bad it was now. Chris Wray was a Trump appointee. For everybody that wants to use that, like, let's be clear. You have to be nonpartisan with the FBI. You know, I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to meet with her, and I hope that I think it was very well received. But we'll just continue to wait and see until these the confirmations hearing, and if the confirmations happen, and not do that recess appointment crap that has been floated out there by so many,
or the interim
Correct.
acting, Federal Vacancies Reform Act, 3345A1. First officer interim appointments.
Yes.
All right, if I'm going off the top of my head, I wanted to ask you, like, how do you tie that in with January 6th and what happened on January 6th? Because that seems like the foot in the door with Murkowski and other senators like her, people who know that it wasn't a tourist visit, people who are like, Barry Loudermilk is dumb, she'd never said that. I'm paraphrasing. She would. I think she would agree. Tie that into January 6th for me.
You know, how do you square away something that we talk about so much, January 6th? Well, also, I brought up very, very briefly, I don't know Pam Bondi's background as much, but I brought her in also. Like, she has been a known election denier, and that is what caused January 6th. The thought,
the big lie,
the big lie that the election was stolen, and it wasn't. So how do you run an entity already going in with the premise of something that isn't true? So what's your stance on January 6th? If somebody can't acknowledge what happened that day and that it happened because of a lie, then how in the world can you lead the premier investigative entity in the world?
She believes that Donald Trump won the election in 2020, and that's who he needs to investigate 2020 election fraud so that he can call the whole 2020 election an act of rebellion or whatever, so he can get his emergency powers and all that shit, like that. He needs that person. And so that's why I love that you brought Pam Bondi up to Senator Murkowski too.
Yeah, it's like I said, these simple facts about what happened that day. And one thing I did tell her, I said, I wish that I could stop talking about January 6th. I wish that I could. Not in the sense of I want to move on from it, let's forget it. No. In the sense that we could go forward as a country. But we can't do that when people are denying what happened about it. And also, I said, Donald Trump is the one constantly bringing up January 6th. It's a lot of MAGA. Let's move on. Democrats, all you got is January 6th, blah, blah, blah. Well, let's be clear. The only reason I respond to stuff, I'm not going out there pounding. I respond to comments that are being made out there. And that's why I'm still talking about it, because people are trying to downplay it. And what's not on my watch,
Right. Right. Yeah, that's I can't imagine it coming at it from that perspective, from having been there on that. I just watched it on TV 3,000 miles away, or however far San Diego is from DC. It's a while. But I still felt like violated, or it was a gut punch, right? It was just, from watching it from far. I can't imagine having been there, especially like West Tunnel shit, where it was like a war zone.
Yeah.
And listening to you all testify at the January 6th committee, when the four of you testified at first, but then when other officers came in and testified later, it's just that people would try to make you think it didn't happen the way that it happened, especially the people who you were fucking guarding that day.
That's one of the biggest gut punches right there, right? That has always been. And so, like I said,
Barry Loudermilk releasing his report or whatever the shit.
That was. I didn't read the whole thing. I read the top lines, the 10 top things, like takeaways, and I mean that was written clearly to be favorable to Trump. Like that's all that it was. I like Liz Cheney's response. Her not standing down, not her continuing to push back. But I mean, it's this. That was written literally to just it sounded like to appease Trump. I didn't read the entire report, so I I can't say I can guess and say that it's a bunch of crap, but I want to be able to read it.
I mean, you
say,
could comment on the fact that the guy who gave tours to insurrectionists on January 5th and then lied about it 6 times. I mean, I think a lot of people forget about that day. They're like, well, how many people did you give a tour to? Oh, it was a family of 4, 2 with 2 kids.
Yeah, who happened to be at the Capitol on January 6th.
And then it changed. Oh, well, it was a family and then a couple other people. Yeah. And then it changed again. Oh, yeah, it was like 16 people. And then it changed again. Yeah, I guess some of them were wearing MAGA hats and taking pictures of, they said they were taking pictures of the sconces and the stairwells, but they were looking for ways to get from the Cannon office building
to the Capitol.
To the Capitol and looking for that tunnel. And you have to go up that staircase. And so we were all like, what? And he was like, but no, I was just giving tours. And then he wants to investigate the investigators of January 6th, which is all Republicans do, by the way, is investigate the people who investigate their shit. He tried to do it with Durham, looking into the Mueller investigation, who found jack shit and Jack left town. And all he had was this indictment against Sussman, which was acquitted. He was like totally exonerated. That's what totally exonerated means, by the way. When you are indicted, you go to trial and you are acquitted.
Yeah.
If just because somebody doesn't bring charges against you, Matt Gaetz, that doesn't mean you're totally exonerated.
Yeah.
Or like Trump in the Russia investigation.
Yeah, that's not exonerated. Yeah.
No. So for the hypocrisy of it being Barry Loudermilk, who wants to put out an interim report like that is definitely, we might not have read the entire report, but it's definitely something we can comment on.
Why is it called the interim report? Interim is like in the middle of it. Like is there more to come?
Yeah, I guess he's not done with his investigation, but Congress wraps up on January 3rd. There can be no further
and
work.
I mean, I guess into the next Congress, right?
Yeah, they'll reassemble, maybe.
The House, when January 6th happened, they've had 2 years. I mean, like, that's the...
Well, yeah, but now they'll have access to all the evidence, and they'll be able to cherry pick all of that.
Well, they'll be able to cherry pick it, but the January 6th committee, like, we can all go find a report and all the investigations, all the interviews, all of that is... People say they threw it away. Like, we can literally Google it right now.
Online.
It's online and go find it. That's what I don't understand. Like, it's something that simple to prove. Like,
well, it was a lot of stuff. It was to prop up Trump's claims in his motions for discovery in his many, many federal cases and state cases that he makes, and a lot, Meadows makes them too, that the January 6th committee has failed to hand over deleted evidence. And so far, every single judge has been like, there's no proof that what you're talking about exists.
Yeah.
So, no, we aren't going to force that discovery because what you're asking for is imaginary. There's no deleted files from January 6th. Everything's public. Here's the link. The judges keep saying it over and over again. But that's why the Republicans keep pushing back, is because people hear what Republicans say. People don't hear what judges say.
Well, even that, the whole thing with Mike Johnson to release the tapes, release the footage, that's been out there. It's on the Oversight Committee website, or the Committee for whatever it is. It's on their website. 30,000 hours of footage, and people are still calling for the footage to be released. Like, it's on their. Mike Johnson put it on their website.
Yeah, and more arrests were made based on
that. It's crazy, man.
Do you think he's going to pardon everybody from January 6th? Because he said he would, and then he said he would only pardon the nonviolent people. But I can't see him not pardoning. Like, I feel like he will pardon the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys, who are the most violent among them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he said that he is. I mean, is it stupid of me to still hold out hope that he will do the right thing and not? I mean, we're living in a world where I'm holding out hope for Trump to do the right thing. Gee, like, am I that fucking gullible? Am I that naive to think that he would?
I could see him pardoning like Enrique Tarrio, who wasn't there that day, but orchestrated and was found convicted of seditious conspiracy because he worked with Stuart Rhodes.
Yeah. Well, as I said, like I talked about earlier, like pardon does not mean expunged. Like, there's, you're just forgiven. You're still a Convicted felon. I get, I want to go back and do some research. Maybe we talk about it on the show next week, but talk about exactly what pardons mean. Because I saw a lot of things. It doesn't overturn these convictions.
No, but I don't think they give a shit. They get out of prison. It comes off their record. They don't have to check the box anymore. And it doesn't what I'd be interested in is whether or not if you're pardoned, and I think I know the answer because I was looking into it in the Steve Bannon case, because we should be expecting a Steve Bannon trial here in a couple months.
Yeah.
And people were asking, well, since he was convicted but pardoned, does that count as a first-time offender or a second-time offender for sentencing guideline purposes? Because you're sentenced for longer time periods if you're a repeat offender. And it actually doesn't. If you've been pardoned, they can't use it to add time to your sentencing guidelines.
Interesting.
But I mean, honestly, I don't think these assholes give a shit about the nuances, the legal nuances. They're just going to run around and say fully exonerated.
Yeah. Well, I would say I'd be willing. I don't know the exact number, and we could look at some of our friends, some of our good, fun, trusted reporters that have covered J6 extensively. I'd be willing to bet majority of them have served and completed their sentences.
Yeah, what you're supposed to do to get a pardon, by the way. But the president's pardon powers are very, very broad. He doesn't really have to follow any of those rules, which is why Biden was able to pardon his son, for example.
Yeah.
But you kind of expunge their record. You pardon them after the fact. And that, I guess, helps them in their life somehow.
What's the difference between pardon and commuting sentences?
Right, because I think a pardon wipes it out, but commuting the sentence means if you're in
time
prison,
served.
they could send you out, because he commuted a bunch of sentences. Biden
I think the
did.
most, yeah.
The most single day act of clemency in the history of the United States, President Biden. But people who were in jail now can leave because their sentences were commuted, but I don't think they're fully pardoned. I'm not sure. It's interesting. We should look that up and get an expert or something.
Talk about it. Yeah.
Cool. All right, my friend, it has been wonderful talking to you. We're going to actually release, because I think it's so important, your discussion that you had with Senator Murkowski, and to kind of give everybody a view into what the bonus episode looks like. We're going to release this one to the public.
Let's do it. And now that people want to make sure they get that in the future, that's a Christmas gift. It's a Christmas gift. There
it's a holiday gift. And so we're going to release this one so everybody can hear it. And thanks again. And do you have any final thoughts before we get out of here? It's almost the weekend. It's almost the holiday season. Yeah. We will be recording on Monday. So there will be an episode that comes out.
I'll say my Christmas message, my holiday message, Hanukkah message, Kwanzaa, whatever, the holiday season message. I'll save that for our next recording.
Because it will come out. Our next show will come out on Christmas Day, so you'll get that under your tree as well.
Yes.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for being patrons, by the way. We couldn't do this without you. Really, really appreciate it. And we'll see you next week. I've been Allison Gill.
Harry Dunn. Thanks, y'all.